we hopefully see this as a very fruitful session. Thank you, Ms. Pretorius. Ms. Pretorius, are you ready to present? Ms. Pretorius?
Hi, ma'am. Yes, sorry. I'm wondering if I can give 5 minutes. I see there's only about 60 learners. Would it be fine just to give some extra time for some others to maybe connect?
I'm just concerned regarding the time, ma'am. Remember, we have
Yes.
the recordings, so we can send it
Okay.
to them. So I think let's start, and then should they fall in later, then we have the recordings that I am going to share with everyone. I am busy uploading everything as we are speaking, but I think we should start now if you don't mind, ma'am.
No problem. Let me do that. Thank you so much. And also just to make learners and educators aware, please do not post anything in the comments that's irrelevant or inappropriate. You will be removed from the session. Let's keep it to the lesson, please. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. We will also not necessarily repeat immediately, but we will go and repeat afterwards, so that we can show something again if you would like. I'm going to try and go as slow as possible. And I do know access is very small usually. So I'll try and make sure that we can all see I'll use the magnifying glass. So please bear with me as I'm going along. Right, so I'm working with the 2020 November paper. If we can all just be busy with that one as well. If you have it open with you, I will alternate between the question paper and the database. So we are working with 5 Egypt database, and we are going to go to the table 5.1. Right, so firstly, we are working with table 5.1 as mentioned, 5.1.1. It indicates that we need to change the indexed field property. So it actually guides us exactly to which property we're going to change. And we need to focus on the T surname field, and it should allow for duplicate values. Right, so going to the T surname field, make sure that you select the correct field when you are going to change the properties. And we're going to go down to the properties, and as they mentioned, they referred to the index, and the index should allow for duplicate values. So in this case, we will choose yes, duplicates, okay. Right, moving on to 5.1.2. So it says display the date in the T birth date field. So we know exactly we're using this field so that it's a short date format. So again, referring to the properties, they give us which property to go and change. So we are going to look at the format. So in the T birth date field, select the correct field, make sure your cursor is there. Then we're going to go down to the format, and we will choose the short date format. Right, 5.1.3.
Ma'am?
Sure.
Sorry,
I'm
they are
already
just
talking
asking if you
slower.
I know,
I feel like I'm
but
very
you know, it's
slow.
access. It's access. But let's try
Okay.
again. If you don't mind just repeating those two for them, ma'am, please.
Okay, no
Thank you.
problem. All right. So again, the first one question said change the index field property. So you're actually very lucky here that they referred to the actual property. Sometimes they don't refer to the property, or they refer to it in a different way. But this was very easy actually. So again, remember, if they refer to the field, make sure that you select the right field. So the first one, change the index field property of the surname to allow for duplicate values. So we're going to click on the surname, make sure it's the right field, go down to the properties, and we are in the index option, and you're going to select the drop down towards the end, and you choose duplicate. Okay. Right, then again 512, where it says display the date in the T birth date field. So we know exactly which field to use there, so that the format is a short date. And again, here they give us the paper is November 2022 paper. Right, so we are in T birth date, and we make sure that the format is short date. So you go to your drop down and you choose the short date format. Right, then 513. Change the TH field properties. So already we know which field, so that it displays the age without decimals. So again there, they tell us what property to go and change. So we'll go to the TH field, then go down to the properties, decimal. I even forgot now. I think it said 2. No, 0. Okay. Right, so 0 decimal places, so without decimal places. Okay, 514. Set the field property of the e-contact field, so we're referring to the e-contact field, so that the user can only enter text that contains an @ sign. Right, so in this case, they are not specifying which field property, so we need to go and figure out which field property would allow us to enter text with the @ sign. Right, is there anyone who wants to just guess in the chat maybe which property do I need to go and change? So it says set the property of the e-contact field so that the user can only enter text that contains an @ sign. Is there anyone who can guess there in the chat for us? All right, so I've got validation text. Someone mentioned validation text. Anyone else with a guess? Someone mentioned input mask. Any other guess? Right, so someone mentions default value. Okay. So these are our properties. So now notice that when we get to the properties of this field, that there is already information in the validation text. So the information says only enter valid email addresses. Right, so there's someone who mentions the validation rule. So it seems like in some cases, learners are confused with the rule and the text. So the correct answer is the validation rule. In this case, it will not be an input mask and also not the default value. Right, so the difference between the validation rule and validation text. The rule is set according to specific criteria, and if that rule is not applied correctly, the user will get an error message, which is displayed from the validation text. Right, so make sure you know the difference between the two. So I can set a rule, and if that person enters information that goes against the rule, a message of the text will pop up for them, right? An error message. So I now need to insert a validation rule that will allow me to have text with the @ sign. Right, someone is asking what's the difference between the rule and the input mask. Now, an input mask is created for us to have a specific layout, right? So you'd remember the input mask has a code sheet. So there we can have a specific codes that will guide us to enter a set layout, whether it's made of text, numbers, or different characters. But that is actually a guide that also makes the data entering more valid, right? So in other words, it's a kind of a, let me use this example. If you fill in a form, a manual form, and there's blocks for your cell phone number, there will usually be 10 blocks, and you would enter your cell phone number in 10 blocks, right? So it's kind of a layout to guide the user as to how many characters they can fill in and what type of characters would be allowed to fill in. That's for the input mask. For the validation rule, we are saying that there is a rule between a rule of certain numbers. It can be between a certain date and another date, between a certain number and another number, or the rule has to have, for example, in this case, it has to have an @ sign. So whenever you're going to type something, the @ sign must be there. If the @ sign is not there, the text is going to pop up in an error to say, only enter valid email addresses. So obviously we know an email address has the @ sign in it. Now someone is asking, what's the difference between the default value and the validation rule? Now a default value, I just zoomed out a bit. If I type in a default value, in this case, I'm just typing the word default inside the default value. If I type the word default, this would usually be used if there's an option that is often used in one of the fields. So what that does is that it will automatically towards the end for a new record put the word default, or well, whatever you put in default, it will automatically add that value for you. This helps with saving time for entering data, for example. So I can type a default value that will automatically appear without having the user to do that. The default value will be there, but I can change it if I want to change it. If it's not that value, I can change it to a new value. And then you will notice that automatically a new record pops up and the default value is inserted again, right? So I hope that answers the questions. I'm not sure. Are we clear on that, guys? The difference between validation rule and input mask, and default value and validation rule. Right. Okay, so now we are going to add the rule of a valid email address. So we already know we need to add the @ sign, right? But would this be a valid email address? How will I indicate a valid email address? What is missing? If someone types an email address, usually there's a name, a username, the @ sign, and then the domain name for the email address. So how would I indicate, since all of us have different usernames and different domains that we use for an email address, how will I indicate those types of characters with the @ sign? In the chat, can someone maybe advise me? What do you think I need to use? Right, someone said a wildcard. Where do I need to put the wildcard? Right, so before and after. So for those who don't know, the wildcard is the asterisk, which indicates any number of characters before or after. So since I'm putting it before, it means any number of characters before the @ sign. So this can be any username that is whichever long, made up of text, numbers, letters, etc. And then I'm saying after, right? So in this case, it means whenever someone types in any text with the @ sign, it would be accepted. But if I do not add the @ sign, it's going to give me an error. So I'm just going to go and test this. so that you can see. Right, so we typed something in the E contact field. So here I am in the E contact field. So I'm going to type username at gmail.com. And you can see as I jump to the next field, it is accepted. If I just type username at gmail.com, it automatically pops up the error message. So this is the validation text. The text pops up because the rule is invalid. So it says only enter a valid email address. So what makes the email valid is the fact that we said it has to have an @ sign, right? So the moment the @ sign is there, it allows us to continue. Right, so I'm just going to show you again. Here we've got, someone asked just to show you the wildcard again. So in other words, I put the asterisk, right? So it's either Shift 8, or if you have a numeric keypad, it's just on top there, which we use for multiply. So we put it in front of the @ sign and the end of the @ sign, right? Which means is whatever letters are in front of the @ sign or whichever letters might follow the @ sign. Point is, for this rule to be valid, the @ sign has to be in the text. If not, this message will pop up. Right. Let's move on. 515. It says, set the T-type field to an appropriate field size. Right, so it actually gives us here that we need to change the field size, but it doesn't tell us what the field size is. Right, just quickly to get back to the questions, someone says, is .com compulsory? So yeah, it was just the example I've used. Some email addresses is .co.za. So remember, we only focus on what is inserted in the field properties in this case. So I just showed you an example of the email. Right, let's go to the T-type. So again, they said that we need to go and change the field size, but they never said to what. So how do I know what to change it to? So in this case, the best option is to go and view the data. Right, so let's go to T-type. Now, if you look at T-type, just quickly have a look and tell me how many characters do you think I need to insert? Those, just quickly type it there in the chat. Right, I have a 4. Okay, a 4. So we can see most of these. Someone says 1 to 10. Right, so the question said an appropriate number there. So if we look at our example, we can see most of it is 4. There is a 3 here, but if I cut off the size, I can cut it off at 4. Someone mentions 5. I don't think there is more than 4. It's our dot, and then there is 3 or 2 letters in some cases. So in this instance, we would change the type field size to 4 characters, right? So that I cannot type more than 4 characters. There is no domain abbreviation with more than 4. 3 is not going to be enough because it has to include the dot, right? So .net, .gov, .com, etc. So we will be restricted to type only 4 characters, but I can type 3 for the .us, for example. Right, let's move on. Then we're going to go to 516. It says create an input mask for the user to enter data in the following format. Right, so we are still busy with the T-type field in this case. So the first one, yeah, already we know it's an input mask, so we're going to refer to the sheet. The input mask sheet is available for the learners to use. So already in some cases, you need to know what character codes. By now, you should kind of more or less know what character codes can be used. So we've got the lowercase letter that we can look at. Then it says the first character is a full stop. So automatically, this is text that we are going to insert ourselves. Then we need 2 compulsory letters followed by 1 optional letter. Right, so if I go to my character sheet and I look at my descriptions over here, so these we know are digits. The character 0 is for digits, 9 is for optional digits, the hash is a digit or space. Then I have letters, so remember we need a letter. The L is for required, and they mentioned that we need an optional letter, so we need to use our question mark. And then also they mentioned the lowercase letters, right? So the code would be our less than sign. Right. So if we go back to it, we're going to go first with the lowercase letter. So go to your input mask. So we're going to use the lowercase. Then they said we're going to use a full stop. So I'm going to type the full stop as is. Then we needed 2 compulsory letters and 1 optional letter. All right, so this is how it will display. So it's a small, a less than sign to make sure that it's small letters or lowercase letters. Then we've got our full stop, then 2 compulsory letters and 1 optional letter. Right, any questions there on the input mask? Is everyone fine with the input mask? Okay, someone asked me to repeat, so I'll do it again. So again, immediately it tells us there that we are going to use or create an input mask for the user to enter the data. Now, it is always listed in bullet format. In this case, they gave one of the options away. They can also put the text here to say create a lowercase input mask, right? So be careful as you read the sentence so that you read it very carefully. But first of all, lowercase letters. Okay, so this is our yes, sorry, ma'am.
Sorry, ma'am. Someone's asking that you just repeat. I don't know if it's regarding the input mask. They're by 5.1.6.
I am repeating now, ma'am, I think. Okay, I'll quickly do that. Thank you. Right, so this is our input mask sheet, right? So you would be able to see immediately. Guys, use your pens as you are doing this. Go to your input mask sheet, and then next to the bullet on our on your paper, write down what you need to add for yourself, right? So let me just quickly see. So in this case, I can go to my input mask sheet, and I know for lowercase, there's my lowercase, right? So there it says lowercase, so I know immediately the code is going to be right. Okay. Then the next one says we need to use, or we need to insert a full stop. So in other words, we're just going to insert the full stop as is. So someone is asking, isn't the full stop supposed to be in between inverted commas? You can add it in between inverted commas, right? It could, some of the text might work without inverted commas, but I do agree. Let's rather put exact text in the inverted commas. It actually makes it easier. So whenever they request you to type text or letters exactly from the keyboard, place it in inverted commas to indicate that the text should be exactly like this. Sorry, ma'am Baker, can you see my screen? Someone says they can't see the screen. It seems to me that the screen is on display.
We can only see the question paper, not access at the moment, Tanya.
Okay, no problem. I'm still on the paper, yeah.
Yes,
It's
now
fine.
we can
Thanks.
see your screen
Yes.
then.
Okay,
Thanks.
cool. Thank you. All right. Okay, they say it's back now. Okay. Right. So firstly, you can go and write it down, guys. So this is what I'm going to use. It's the less than sign. Then the exact text I'll type in inverted commas. Then let's go and have a look at compulsory letters. So obviously you'll go to your sheet. And like I said, by now, kind of, you should kind of know after doing a few revisions. I'm sure you've been busy with revision. If it is a compulsory letter, it means it's required, right? It means I have to. Compulsory means I have to, in other words, required. So that will be my L character that I'm going to use. Okay, so then I can go and I can see there they say 2. So I will make sure that I've got 2 compulsory letters. Then it says followed by 1 optional letter. So that's easy. We go to letter and there we see optional. So that is our question mark. Right, then it's only 1 optional letter. So now I'm just going to add all of this into my input mask. Can I please ask you guys to just not share a lot of reactions because it's a bit disturbing on the screen for others. Thank you. Right, so let's go to our input mask. Then we say less than. As mentioned, we'll put the full stop or any exact text in inverted commas. We've got our 2 capital letter L's, which is compulsory letters, and we've got our optional letter, which is the question mark. Right, so that is the input mask. And as you can see, that's 4 marks for this input mask. So you'll get 1 mark. Yes. 1 mark for that bullet, another mark for that bullet, 1 mark for that bullet, and another one for that bullet. Then there's a question that says, can we put a backward slash before the full stop? In other words, this option. You can also do that. Since it's only 1 keyboard character, it's safe to put the backward slash. So I'll show you in the input mask as well. Here you have your option. It says it causes the character that follows to display as literal characters. So in other words, the literal text from the keyboard instead of one of these codes. So if I want to type a C, but I want the C to be in a character, an actual literal character and not a character or space, I would include this backslash before that character. Right, so you could also add the backslash, yes. Right, let's go to 517. So it says there, center the content of the pyramid code field. So we would go to the pyramid code field and it says that we need to center the context. So let's look at our properties and we can see that down here we've got text alignment. So we are aware of alignment and we can then just choose to center our content for the field. Right, 518. Create a combo box for the pyramid site field. So by using the table sides table. Right, so can anyone tell me if I have to go and create a combo box, which data type would I choose? Just quickly type it there in the chat. What data type would I choose? Is there a different way to do it, maybe? Anyone? Right, so you are all mentioning the lookup wizard, right? So I would go to my data type and I would choose lookup wizard. Then it will open up the dialog box for the wizard, right? Now, since it mentioned that I need to use values from a table, I'm going to keep this one selected for values from another table or query. Go to next. Then I choose the table that they mentioned. They mentioned we will be using the TBL sites. Go to the next option. There is only one field in this case, so I'll just move the field over. They didn't mention anything about sorting, so I can skip this step. And then they show us the different sites, right? And if I'm happy, I go next, and it would be applied to the pyramid site field name, and I can say finish, and it just says that we need to save the table before we do this. Right, so now it seems like nothing happened. It still says short text over there, but just to double check, I'm going to come down here to my properties and click on lookup. And there's where I can see that I have created a combo box, right? Because the question said create a combo box. So I've created a combo box, which is based on the table. Sorry, now it moved. Okay, based on the table, and the source that I've used was the site field from this table. Okay, so that's how I can verify that I've used the correct information. Is everyone all right with that lookup? Okay. Okay. Right. Okay, so currently it's just back to normal. I'm just going to try again just to show you. Okay, so someone is asking what's the difference between a combo box and a list box. It is technically the same. They both do the same and display the same options. Right, so let's go again. We're going to go open up our lookup wizard. Let me just delete that one. Okay, I'm just going to create another one now because it actually, right. So we'll go to the lookup wizard. Okay, so since they said we need to use an existing table, I'm going to stay with this option. Go to next. They specified that the table should be TBL sites. Go to next. The field site should be used. Then I move the field over. They didn't mention anything about sorting or the order of this box, list box or combo box. Then I see my options are displayed, and I can just finish it off to apply it to that field name, and I save my options. Right, and then in the lookup properties, it would display as follows. Right, the reason I'm showing you this is how the marking would happen, right? So for us to see that you've used the correct options, we would go to the lookup properties and we would mark the fact that you've used the combo box, you've selected the table, and that the correct table has been selected. Right. Okay, so 519 says we need to switch to datasheet view. So once we switched, it says we need to insert the 5 Andrews picture found in your examination folder in the T photo field for the traveler Andrews Peter. So we're going to switch to datasheet view. We are going to select Andrews Peter and we need to insert the photo. So I can right click, just zoom in maybe again. Right, I'm going to right click. Then there's an option that says insert object. I'm going to look for a file that is in the exam folder. And the file's name is 5 Andrews. And I can say OK. And you can see it's busy loading. Right, and it says that the picture has been added, although the picture doesn't display as a picture, but this indicates to us that the picture was added, right? So in this case, if I double click, let me just zoom out a bit, then that image opens up. Right, that is the table, TBL51 table. Okay, right. Do you want me to repeat the inserting? Ne? Yes. Thank you. Okay. I'm just going to do it on a different person. Okay. Goes the same. So I'm just going to choose this person. So we're going to go to our option. First, let me just also show you why this works. The T photo is the OLE object. So that is why I can insert the object. I know many times you've chosen the data type OLE object, but sometimes we don't know how it works, right? But for the mere fact that the data type is OLE object, that is why I can go and insert an object like this. So let's go again. So I'm going to right click for that record where I want to insert the info. Then I choose insert object. And since we already have that file, I'm going to say create it from a file, and then we browse. And then you will look in your exam folder. You will choose the correct file that is referred to. And then I say, OK. So now the link has been created, or the pathway has been chosen, and then I say OK again, just to insert that OLE object. Where are we now? Right, there we go. Someone says, how can I select the OLE object? I'm not sure what you mean by that. Do you select it? Chiara Betswe, can you maybe just clarify that question? I'm not sure what you mean by that. Okay, maybe while she's still busy typing or something. Okay. You can ask the question in the chat, Chiara Betswe. I will come back to it, just so I can. Right. Okay, so that is the table for you. I'm going to move on to 5.2, which is our form. Right, so I'm just going to close this question. The table there, then I'll open up this form in design view. Right, so notice that I right click and then I just choose design view so that I can come and make the necessary changes. So first of all, it says, oh, sorry, ma'am. Yes, in the data field.
Kevin responded. She said in the data field. I don't know if that helps, perhaps.
in the data field, can I select the OLE object? Are you maybe?
And then you've got another question that says, how can I select the OLE object?
Sorry, Tanya. Isn't it when you go into the data sheet design view where you select the properties, the type of
Yeah,
file?
that's what I'm wondering now. Does she refer? Are you referring to the data type to come and choose the OLE object? Yeah. The data type. So it's like choosing any other data type. It's in the drop down box. Yes, curated. So there we go. So the data type is like any other of these data types. So basically the T photo, we didn't have to do that. Sometimes we need to add, I can't remember in the prelim if there was something, but in previous papers, for example, you had to add an ID document and then you will come and choose, or not, let's say a different photo, ID photo. And then you have to choose the OLE object. That's the data type. I hope I'm answering it correctly. Yeah. So there's someone who said if you insert a picture, is there a chance that they can ask to change? Yes. So usually when they ask you to insert a new field, they would say insert a new field with the correct data type. And they would say insert a new field called ID photo with the correct data type. And usually a photo is associated with the OLE object. If it is, for example, an email address that we need to do, usually email addresses is associated with a hyperlink, right? So that's just when we do new fields and we need to have the appropriate data type. I hope that helps. It seems like that was the correct option. Right, so moving on to the form. Okay, so in the form first, it says there that we need to change the order of the fields to T surname, T name, E contact, and then T photo. Right, so currently it's saying T name, T surname, E contact, and then T photo. So basically they want us to swap the T name and the T surname. Right, now there are different options on how to do this. So firstly, what I'm doing is I'm selecting my name and I control, this is my name label, and I control and click on my T name text box, right? So now I've got both of them selected and you can see that I can click and drag up or drag down. So I've selected my T name, it was on top, both of them selected, and then I click and I drag down, and I can see by my red line over there that my fields will then shift and move, right? So we had to swap the order, so that T surname is first, then T name, E contact, and T photo. So it's a matter of clicking, selecting the label, control, select the text box, and just click, hold in your click and drag up or down. Right, that's our first bullet. Right, so there's also an interesting question there. When do we use the OLE object versus an attachment of the data type? So this is your, it depends also on your discretion. So usually we are going to add a field name with photo. Right, I will repeat that one now as well. But if I can go back maybe just to our design view. So whenever we are going to have a field name that is linked to a photo, we would have an OLE object, right? Because it's an object that we are going to link, and a photo is quite easy. It's one file that we will link, and we can open it then from the database. So it's a file that will become embedded into the database and will move with the database. The attachment is a separate file which will be opened if we click it, but it's not embedded to the database. So when to know which one to choose, that depends on your field name and the purpose of the field. Now, in some cases, notice that there are descriptions on the side of the field names. So if there's an existing field and they would ask you to choose the correct data type, my first advice is read what that specific field name, what the purpose is for that field name. So in this description, you would find, okay, it's going to be used for this, so then maybe I need to do an attachment. Or if they mention something about photos, then it will be an OLE object. If you need to create the field yourself, it all depends. Again, if I say I need to add an ID copy, in this case, I would say, all right, I need to do an attachment. But if it's an ID photo, I can do an OLE object. Right, I hope that that helps with, that clears it up. Okay, let me just repeat that other option again. So remember, they asked us that we need to swap or, well, change the order of our fields. We need to start with T name, T surname, then T name, then E contact, then T photo. So I'm going to click on the label first for the surname. I control and I click on the text box for the T name. And then it's a matter of clicking and dragging down. So obviously I hold in the click, and then I drag down, and you can see it makes a little red line to indicate where I've dragged to, and I release and it will automatically swap my fields. Right, then let's move on to the next bullet. Okay, so the next bullet says replace the heading. Very important, replace. All of these words, change, replace, insert. If it says replace something, you have to replace it. You can't recreate or add the information. If you do that, you would unfortunately lose the marks, right? So make sure, guys, that whenever it says to replace or add, there is a difference. They will also explain this in the HTML for you as well. It happens everywhere in Excel, HTML. If you have to change something that's already existing, you change it. You can't add or create or insert new options. So again, we're going to replace the heading in the form header with your examination number. Right. So currently in my form header, this is my label. So I am going to change it to my exam number, right? So I'm sure you are familiar with your exam numbers, or if not yet, you will get a number. Your educators will still tell you that you will then insert your exam number inside the form header. So we had to replace the existing heading with your exam. Miss Baker, can you hear me? Someone says they can't hear me. What's wrong? Am I muted?
I can hear, yes, I can hear you.
Oh,
We can hear you.
Oh, thank you. Okay, maybe they can just, there's someone there that mentioned that they can't hear me. Okay, thank you. Yeah, people can hear me, so I'm fine. Right, so again, you're not going to add a new label, or you need to replace. If it was the opposite, where they said insert a new label with your exam number, then obviously you had to insert and not replace. Right, so in this case, they say insert the date field in the form header, right? So it has to be a date field, right? The moment we see field, it guides us to the fact that it should automatically update, actually. They never said insert today's date or insert the date. They said insert the date field. So in this case, I'm going to go to my design over here. And over here, I can find the date and time. So the moment I click on date and time, we can see include date. I don't want the time, so I'm going to exclude the time. And I am going to click OK, and automatically it is added to the form header. So that was inserting the date. Right, next it says, shade the E contact field to any light color of your choice. Right. Can anyone tell me which one is the field? Which one do I need to shade? This is a label and this is my text box. Okay, let me just go back to the date one. They want me to repeat the date. So here's the date. Okay, we need to insert the date. So if you go to your form design, there's your controls. You go to the side a little bit and you would find the date and time field option. So I'm going to just simply click date and time. It opens the dialog box and make sure that we are only including okay, I'll get to you now, Lesedi. Then we make sure that we only include the date. Then I can say, okay. So this is actually the quickest way. However, Lesedi is asking if she will be penalized if she inserts the date function manually. If you insert the date function manually, you would then obviously use your text box. And I can click on the text box and say =, date, right? Okay, remove that label. So I'm sure this is what you are referring to. So you are referring to the fact that you insert the date in a text box, right? So if you view them, you will see that both dates does display. You will not be penalized as long as it is inserted in the text box and not the label. If it's inserted in a label, obviously the text will display as is. Let me just show everyone, maybe they might be lost. So if I type it as this, okay, the difference displays like this. So in this case, in a label, you will not get the marks, but if you manually insert it into a text box, you will get the mark for the date function, right? So that is an alternative option. However, I do feel that it is a safer bet to maybe use the built-in feature of date and time, but whichever way you feel comfortable, as long as you can get the marks. Someone asked to repeat. Okay, I think I've done that, right? The date and time, yeah. Right, so getting back to changing the color of the e-contact, we need to shade the field. Which one would you shade? This is the label, this is the text box. Someone tell me quickly, label or text box? Which one would you shade? This question is asking us. To shade the field, the e-contact field. Just quickly in the chat box, which one, label or text box? Anyone? Okay, I'm seeing label. Someone mentions the text box, label. Right. Okay, I'm quickly going to take your attention back to this bullet over here where it says insert the date field, right? So you remember what I said about field? This one is typed in a label and it displays the actual, the actual text. These two are typed in a text box and this gives us our answer, right? So if it's typed in a text box, it's known as the field, but a label just gives us a label or a name to that particular field, right? So the correct answer is that we would shade the text box, right? So they said any light color of your choice. Please remember you are working against time, guys. So don't do shopping of the colors to see which one you like best. Choose a color and get it done and over with, right? So just as long as it's a light color, choose and select. Please make sure that you don't go and choose something that's not easily visible. Make sure that it is visible for someone to see, right? This one maybe. Okay, yeah. But make sure that it's very clear. I'm trying to select one that's almost whitish, but I'm not finding a, yeah. So this one might not be very clear, right? So make sure that when you choose an option, it stands out from the rest. It still has to be light, any light type of color, but make sure it stands out from the rest of the labels or colors in the form. So again, just to go back to the fact, field, so date field or contact field, it is referring to the text box, right? So text box equals field. Label is just giving the name of the field name. Okay, that's the form. Let's move on to the queries. Any question on the form? It seems like everyone is fine. Right, so the first query there, it says that we're going to work on query 5.3, and we need to modify the query so that it displays the total number of pyramids at the Giza site. Okay, so let's open up. Right, so this is currently what it's saying there. There's two fields in this query. It shows the site and the pyramid. So just to clarify for us, let's look at the data sheet view. So we can see these are the site names. Okay, and there we can see Giza, the one that was mentioned in our question. And obviously these are the pyramids. Okay. Now, since we need to display a total, I am going to activate the totals row. So the moment I come to, I'm in my query design, and towards the end where there's the show hide, I'm going to click on totals. And the moment I do that, you would see that a new row appears in my query that is known as total. Right? It then says group by. So I just want to display the information. You can see it swapped some of the informations here and there. It seems like it's less than before, right? But very important, currently it is grouped by the site. It always groups by the first field mentioned, and then it made the next option is pyramids. This question says that I need to display the total number of pyramids at this particular site. Okay. So we're going to go total number of pyramids. So looking at the total, I want to do what with the pyramids? I want to count the pyramids. Okay. I've been asked to repeat. I'm not sure. Let me go back. I've actually just started this one. So the first step is that you activate your totals row. Okay. So this is currently the query. So all I did was look at the data for myself so that I can see how the data is displayed. Okay. So currently I can see that there's various sites and various pyramids. So since we want to display a total, I'm going to activate my totals row. That's step one. So once the total row is active, now just displaying again, I'm looking at how it is sorted. It's actually sorted differently, right? So that's the only thing I did. I just went and checked the data sheet view again. But now what we want to do is the question states that we want the total number of pyramids. So I'm going to go to pyramids and I want to see the total number of pyramids. So now in this case, I want to count them. right? Because it is names that are listed. So I want this query to go and count the names for each site. Let me view. Then I can see the sites have now been listed and grouped, and the pyramids, you can see that automatically, since I've counted the pyramids, it changes that name to count pyramids, and it would then say 6, 21, etc. All right, again. Okay, so this is the query if I open it up, right? It looks like this. This is the data. Just zoom out once. I'm just zooming out. I'll zoom in again, but just for you to see that there's a lot of records, 193 records, right? That's listed here. So what we want to know is, I want to know how many pyramids are listed. For example, here is one site, right? So we can see that this is a site. So technically, I want access to go and count how many pyramids are there at this particular site. Okay, so in order for us to do this, I'm going to activate the totals row. Then they want to know the number of pyramids for each site. So I'm going to, sorry, there we go. Just make sure we count the pyramids, right? So it still stays on grouped by the site. And looking at that site, how many pyramids are there per site? So that's basically what the question said. Modify the query to display the total number of pyramids. Okay, so now we can see. Ms. Baker, are you fine? You want to say something? Oh, thank you. Sorry. There we go. Right. So now we can see there are numbers instead of a list of pyramids, right? Because I said go and count how many pyramids there are at each site. Now we are not done because it actually says that we just want to know how many there are for the Giza site. So now in that case, obviously I can see Giza over there. So I need to add a criteria.
Ma'am, I'm so sorry to
Yes.
bother. I see there are hands up. Can I just ask the ladies and gents that are sticking their hands up, can you please type it in the comment section, then we'll assist you there.
Thank you, ma'am. Right, so then we've got Giza over there because we want specifically for the Giza site. And if I display, it will only give me that one record that was requested in the question paper. Okay, so if we look at the question again, modify the query to display the total number of pyramids at the Giza site, right? So total number, whenever you read a query and it mentions something about the total number or the maximum, minimum, average of something, then it is likely that you have to activate your totals row. In some cases, they give you a screenshot, and I'm sure you've seen it somewhere where there's a field name that says sum of or count of, right? So immediately when you see a screenshot and one of the field names has a function in front of them, it should trigger you to know to activate the totals row. The last step, according to me, Mabasu, was the fact that I just went to the criteria since the question specifically said that we need to use the Giza site. The last step then would be to go to criteria and then add Giza as a criteria. And this will then only extract the site for Giza. Right, I hope we are sorted. Sponga, please type your question in the chat. Right, I'm assuming everyone is fine with this query now. Okay, Alberton, hi, can you please type your question in the chat for us? I'm not sure, Ms. Baker, it could be that the chat is not available for everyone. I don't know. Okay. I'm going to move.
Miss, hi, ma'am. Now I checked now. It is available, so I don't know if the people are struggling to access it.
I'm not sure. Okay, let me move on. We'll come back to questions again at the end, maybe. All right. So moving on to query 5.4. So we're working with the 5.4 query. Let me close this one first, and then I'm going to open in design view. Well, let's go there. So I'm just going to open the query first. So the best thing when it comes to queries is to know the data. So I can see that it has got the name, surname, the site, there's a birth date and a domain type. Right, so it's always good to know what data is in the query before we start reading the query, because it helps us understand the question. Okay, then we can go to design view. Let's see the question. So first bullet says that we need to sort the query first according to the surname field and then according to the name field. So for the fact that they mentioned first according to the surname field indicates to us that we need to move the surname field, right? It is currently already sorted, but we need to move it so that it can be first surname and then the name field, right? So that's basically what you have to do there. So Elnay is just asking about the exam number. It's fine if you do it in Word where it's requested, Elnay. It's not necessary to do it in Excel or any of the others, unless in this case where it was requested in the form to add your exam number, then you have to add it where it was asked for. Okay. I'm going to repeat this option. So someone said I must repeat. So all I did was, guys, I go to the top of surname, that small gray area over there. I select surname. Once it's selected, my mouse turns to a white arrow. I click and I hold, and you can immediately see on the left-hand side of this surname field, there's a black line. So if you see me moving, you can see this is how I can move the field around. So you can see where I'm going to drag and drop. So in this case, we want to drag and drop to the first option. Umpile, I'm sure that's what you requested. It's the same repeating. Right. Okay. So once we've done that, we're moving to our next bullet. It says, display the records of those visitors who were born before 1960 and whose domain type is org or edu. So the first thing in this case, there's two options that we need, two criteria that they are referring to in this question. The first one is the fact that those visitors who were born before 1960. So now, very important, how do I know if they were born before 1960? I'm referring to their birth date. Notice the format of the birth date. It starts with the year, then the month, then the day, right? So I need to go and ensure that before, let me just double check. Yeah, before 1960. So now what symbol is used for before 1960? So in this case, in my criteria at the birth date, before is indicated by the less than sign. So less than what? 1960, right? Do you think this is correct? If I go in view, it doesn't display anything. Remember, it is very important, as I mentioned, that you focus on the format. So when we refer to a birth date, it needs to extract information in the same format as it is displayed in that field. So we're referring to the year, the month, and the day. So if someone is born before 1960, it should be 1960 January the 1st. Right. Automatically, the hashtags would be added to dates. That is correct. You leave it in that case. Let us see. Now we can see all of these people have been born before 1960. You won't find any date that is after 1960. Right, so that is our one criteria that was mentioned in this question. The first one, born before 1960. So in any case where you have a date, guys, in our access, you have to refer to the full date format, right? Year, month, and right. So Lesedi is asking if we can use wildcards in this case. Lesedi, can you maybe type the option of the wildcard that you are referring to? I'm assuming you mean something like this. If you're referring to this, this doesn't necessarily mean before the 1st of January. In this case, it can be any month of any day in 1960 and before, if this makes sense. Lesedi, just indicate if it makes sense to you. But yeah, in this case, oh, the expression is in any way invalid. You can't do that in this case, right? So specify the date. In this case, it's the 1st of January 1960, before all the dates before then. Right, then the next part of the question says, those domain types, that is org or edu. Right, now initially going to domain type, easy would be to do org, right? So org, so now it will give us, nope. Okay, there's a specific reason why not. Just to show you again the data, I made a mistake. So remember, all the domain types also has a full stop. Okay, so I want to extract the full stop as well. So the easiest then here would be .org. That's the first one that we need to choose. So it extracts those dates that are before 1960 and the domain type org. But now in our question, it tells us that it should be org or edu. Now, in many cases, due to the or, you would put your edu in the or criteria line, right? Which means or, which in some cases it would be correct. But now note that the birth date only applies to the .org and not to the edu. So in this case, it's very important. If they give you two options or two criterias in one field name, you need to be very careful as to how you insert this particular, these particular options, because it is influenced by, in this case, the birth date criteria. So if you want to put the options .org or .edu, you would have to repeat this particular criteria that was asked first in the same line as well. Because it means that we are looking, the question says we are looking for the visitors who's born before 1960, whose domain is .org or .edu, right? So the birth date applies to both domain types. Alternatively, you can add both of them in the same line with the parameter or, right? So these are the options that you can use. So someone says if there's 3 options. So in other words, let's go with .edu and .com. I'm sure this is what you are referring to. And the birth date then has to apply to all of them if you want to have 3 options. Alternatively, like we did here, you can go all.com, right? For me, personally, this is the safest bet that you can get. You can never put and, because I can't, my email address can never be .org and .edu. I can only have an email address of .org or edu or com, right? So this is the safest bet to make sure that your criteria applies to this and this. That is correct, Lutandu Wami. Access is actually very easy. You are correct, yeah. Right. Where are we? Right, I'm sure that was all right. I will come back to that one just now, guys. I'm just afraid we're going to run out of time, so I'm just going to go on and then we'll come back later. Right, so the next bullet says that tourists receive a 15% discount on the visitor's cost. Now, many times I know some of you would immediately skip a calculation in a query, but I'm going to give you a tip now. Instead of skipping the calculation, at least get yourself 1 mark if possible, a guaranteed mark, right? If you do it correctly. So the first thing it says there, insert a calculated field called payable. Now, before you do anything else, you go to the option to add a new field called payable. You insert this new field, and I'm going to use a colon, and I'm just going to type a 1 there for now, right? So in this case, you are 99% guaranteed of 1 mark, and you didn't do anything, right? So again, I'm advising you, instead of skipping the calculated field, look at what they say is the calculated field's name. So it says insert a new field called payable. You stop right there, you go to your query, you type that field name, and you make sure that you put the colon, and you just add a 1 after it for now, right? The reason why I'm saying you need to add payable with the colon, if you do not add the colon, it gives you an expression error. In this case, you will not get the mark. But in this case, you are guaranteed 1 mark for the field name, right? Okay, let's go back to see what this field should do. So it says we've inserted this field and it should determine the amount payable after the discount has been deducted. Right, so now I'm going to go back to my first sentence in this bullet. Alexandra, I'm not sure what is after that colon. It looks like a block something. If it doesn't give you the expression, then it seems to be fine. Oh, is it square brackets? I'm sure, yeah. Maybe, I don't know, but yeah, yes, it will work. You will get that mark. But now for another mark, which is a very easy mark as well. It says tourists received a 15% discount off the visitor's cost. And here it gives us the field name that we are going to use. So somewhere in your sentence where you are doing the calculated field, you would see the field name that you are going to use. So another guaranteed mark is to add, is to add the field name that they are referring to in the calculation, right? So there, 1 mark for the field name, 1 mark for the new field created, and 1 mark for the field name. There's 2 marks already, and we barely started with the function, right? So again, I'm telling you, do not skip the calculated field. Go there, insert the new field name, easy. That is reading. There's no thinking to it. And as you continue reading the question, somewhere it will pop up which field they are referring to. Some cases they're referring to 2 fields, then it's extra marks, right? So in this case, they referred to our visitor cost. Visitors with an S. I'll fix that now. Right, so then it says they would receive a 15% discount. So now I know I'm going to use 15% somewhere. But now I need to be careful because I need to use it correctly. Obviously, discount gives me the idea that I need to subtract, right? Okay. So let's just go in. So I'm doing visitors cost, and I could say that I need 15% of the visitors cost. So first, to get 15%, I'm going to multiply with 15%. Okay. So already I knew I had to use 15%, right? So now 3 marks already. Okay. Let's just go and view it quickly. Oh, what's wrong? Oh, sorry, 15%, 0.15 for 15%. What is the field name? Is it not visitors cost? Sorry, spelling visitors cost. I spelled it wrong. Visitors cost. There we go. Right, so there we can see now that it has calculated 15%, right? We are not done. It has only calculated 15% of the visitor's cost. But now I need to get the discount amount. So to get the discount amount, obviously I need to take this 15% and subtract it from the original amount. Yes, you can also use the builder. Whichever way works for you, you can use the builder to build your function as well. 0.15 refers to 15% because it has to be 15%. That's why I said 0.15. So there we go. I'm using my field name again. So payable, the original cost subtracted from 15% of the cost. So this is your full calculation, guys. Now, again, I'm going to say in some cases, it is complicated for us to work out these functions. But I'm going to go back to the fact to say that if I read this question, especially if we struggle with functions and formulas, first thing, insert a calculated field called payable. You go to the blank option, you add payable with a colon and a 1. If you are late, you move on, at least you are guaranteed 1 mark. If you read further, somewhere in your sentence, like in this case, you would see what field is used. Then you can go and add this field in square brackets instead of the 1, right? Then you are guaranteed 2 marks. So do not skip a calculated field. Please go and try and add some of the options where you can necessary. Yes, you can do that. You can use your BOTMAS. So someone is asking if you can put the options in round brackets. You can do that to make sure that BOTMAS applies. So brackets, yeah, you can. As long as your layout is more or less correct. I mean, it's technically maths, right? So, yeah. So again, the tip for calculated field, guys, a calculated query, don't skip it. Definitely go fill in the name and then see if you can identify which field is going to be used, and you add that field in square brackets. Okay, so that's query 5.4. I hope that helps you guys. Yes, that's correct, Marika. Thank you. Or Ms. Botma. Okay, let's move on to 5.5. Right, so in 5.5, they say we need to create a report named report 5.5 based on the table visitors table. Okay, so let's go and do that. I'm going to go to create, and we're going to go down here to reports, and we want to create a report using the wizard. to follow the steps, and it should be based on the table visitors, right? Just going to zoom out again. Then we're going to look at the screenshot. So they've provided us with a screenshot of how this report should look. So now I can see the field names, pyramid name, surname, visitors, cost. So that's where we are now here. Oops. So it's pyramid, name, surname, visitors, cost, right? So notice, guys, that I'm double clicking on the field. It just makes it a bit easier instead of using these options according to me, but whichever way you are comfortable with. Remember, we are working against time here, 1 minute, 1 mark, right? So it's best to use all the necessary shortcuts available. Right, then I'm going to go to my next option. In this option, it says, do you want to add any grouping levels? Right, so let's go back to our screenshot and have a look. If I look at this, can I see any grouping? And I can actually see it grouping by the fact that there is information written here, then it goes blank, and there's nothing listed for these options, which means it is grouped by the pyramid, and this pyramid's information is listed over here. And then it's grouped by this pyramid, and the information is listed there. So immediately I know, all right, there is definitely a grouping, and I'm going to add the grouping to pyramid. Okay. Now, as I am analyzing the screenshot, I can pick up that there is a function in this report, and immediately it's given away by the word maximum. So I know the function used is maximum, right? In some cases, they might just give us the word amount, and we have to figure out that it's the maximum. So you would have to look at your amount, for example, and then you would see that it is the highest amount listed in that range. Okay, but yeah, they've been lenient and they said that it should be maximum. So now in this area over here, I have an option where it says grouping. So, oopsie, my bad. Sorry, where did my report go? Oops, let me start again, sorry. Okay. Okay, then we are going to group according to the pyramid. Okay, now, okay, in this case, in some cases, we can use the grouping option depending on what we've grouped by. Right, so now we're going to move on to our next step, which is asking for any sorting. In this case, again, I have not seen the sorting. However, remember, since it's a screenshot, they don't tell us that there's sorting, but you're going to have to look and analyze. And in this case, I can't see any sorting regarding the information. So I'm assuming that there is no sorting. Go to the next step. They didn't mention anything about the layout, right? So this is the layout. It seems like it is stepped where the pyramid is listed first and then the information. So I'm not changing that. And then they said we are renaming it to report 5.5. Please make sure that you rename it to the correct information and not just leave it as it was table visitors. Right, so once we finish creating the report, I just zoomed out a bit, we can see that it looks very similar to the screenshot. It opens in a print preview. So we need to go back now and say, no, I just still want to add some things. So I'm going to close the print preview. The moment I do that, it opens up in my design view. Then first thing, I want to open up my group and sort options. Right, so remember, what we need to do is now we are looking for the max amount, right, to add this function. Now, there are various ways that you can add a function in the report. I'm going to try and show all of them quickly. Okay. So one of the options is the following. We need to add a function for the pyramid grouping, right? So this is one option. I'm in the group of pyramids. I go to more, and here's an option that says with no totals, but I want to add totals. I want to add totals to the visitor's cost, and I specifically want the maximum. Where do I want this to appear? In the group footer. How do I know it's the group footer? Just going to go out again. We can see here is the header. This is what we'll call the header. And then we can see down here, obviously, it is at the end of that group. So that means it's in the group footer, right? So I'm just going to go there again. So I'm in the grouping totals. I'm referring to the visitor's cost. Oh, sorry. I want the maximum, and I want to show in the subtotal grouping. So now I'm just going to, before I click there, you can see there's the pyramid header, then detail and page footer. So the moment I'm going to choose subtotal group, you can see that a pyramid footer automatically opens up and my calculation is added for me, right? If I go and view, you can see there's my calculation. So what is left for me is to add a label, right? So I can go do my label, and the label said maximum amount. Okay. So this is one option, right? So there we can see maximum amount, and there is my maximum amount. Now, what is different in this case, can you see that there is a border around my amount? Okay. So which then means that obviously in design view, I need to make sure that I maybe add a border. Oops, format. And I put an outline that's a little bit thicker. Right, so that was one of the options. Okay, alternatively, I'm just going to delete this option. Let me go. Okay, so alternatively, you can see that there's no pyramid footer, but we need to add it in the footer. So then what I need to do is I need to activate my footer. So I'm going to go with a footer section. So I'll choose with a footer section so that it opens up my footer. Then I can go, oops, sorry. Then I can go and add a text box, which includes the label, right? I can do my maximum amount. And then in the text box option, I can add max of visitors cost, obviously in square brackets. So function, field name in square brackets. Right, and there we have the option, and already our frame is around. Okay, so that's the alternative option to add a function. Okay, another option is the following. The third option is if I go to my layout view, and since we are working with visitors cost, I can right click and say total visitors and choose max. And it adds the maximum for me. Then again, I need to go to my design view and add the label. So there are various options, various ways how you can add your function. Do the one that is easiest for you. Right, there we go. Okay, let's just go back to the paper. And I saw down here some notes. So it says, take note of the fields. We did choose the correct fields. We did a grouping. We did a calculation. And oh, the one thing I missed was the format of the visitor's cost. So obviously you need to make sure that the format is correct. So this all depends on how you've inserted. You've seen the way I've inserted it. The one with the text box did not display the currency, but if you've used the built-in features, it uses the currency automatically, so you score a mark in that case. All right, I think that is this paper. It is already 4 o'clock. Yeah. Okay, I think, ma'am, we can look at some of the options we need to repeat. I'm assuming I'm going to start with this calculation. Right. So let me do the calculation again, guys. Like I said, it depends whatever you are comfortable with. If I need to add a calculation, important is that it is in the footer of the pyramid footer. So for me, one of the easiest is to go to the grouping, choose more, then I choose the total option. I'm referring to the visitor's cost. Right. For some reason my mouse is giving me issues. Okay. There we go. Visitor's cost, it needs to be the maximum, and I need to display it in the group footer, and automatically the group footer opens up with my function already inside. I didn't type it in. Then I can just add the label maximum amount. And again, in this case, like I said, automatically your currency will be listed. Okay. If you manually want to insert it yourself, you would go to the text box option, click the text box option, then insert your information, equal sign max, visitors cost. Right, so notice the difference. The one is currency, this one is not currency. So that last bullet said, note the format. So in other words, in this case, you have to go and change the format. So we go to design view, the properties, here's my format. Make sure you select the box and you change the format to currency, right? So that's an additional step that you have to follow compared to using the built-in features. All right. Okay, guys, if you want me to repeat something, maybe you can just list it there for us. I see already that I need to go back to the table just to show you how to do the table. Or if you have any alternative questions for access that we haven't done, maybe there's something that was not in this paper. Okay, so we're going to go to right. I'm going to go back to the input mask first. So remember what I said with the input mask. Remember, you are allowed to have your pen with you, make notes. So as you go to your input mask sheet, actually, in fact, tear the sheet out so that you have it visible with or next to you, so it's easy to read, so you don't have to page back and forth. So remember, compulsory is everywhere where it says required, right? So whenever we get to compulsory, it means required. Whenever we get to optional, it would be not required or optional, right? So you would have those options to refer to. Okay. Now, in this case, the first one was easy enough. It mentions that we are going to use the lowercase letters. So lowercase is obviously the less than symbol that indicates to lowercase. Then it says the first character has to be a full stop. So this has to be exactly text to be exact like this, right? Which is a full stop, and we indicated that you can either put in inverted commas or you can put the backslash, which means it's literal text. Then 2 compulsory letters. So if you're not sure, you go and look at your input mask and we can see that it's a letter that is required and it needs to be 2. So we're going to use 2 L's, right? 2 capital L's, and then 1 optional letter. Again, if we go to our input mask, the letter that's optional is the question mark, right? So then we do our question mark. So then it's just a matter of going to our field and typing the information. So we said the less than symbol, then we said the full stop, then 2 capital L's and the question mark for the optional letter. Okay, I hope that one helps. Right. Then next, someone asked for, let's go to the combo box. Right, so I'm going to go, yeah. I'm just going to add a new one again there. So pyramid site. So we want to do a combo box. We're going to go to the lookup wizard. In the lookup wizard, they said that we want to use an existing table. So I'm choosing existing table. Next. And then they ask which table or query is it? It is table sites. Then I go next. There is only one field, so I'll use this field. I go next. They didn't mention anything about the sorting. And there's my options, next, and I apply it to that field. Then obviously we just need to save, and I'm going to verify in the lookup that I've added the combo box, right? So that's very simple. You just follow the wizard and it guides you as to what to do. Okay, then someone is asking for this one. Okay, the input mark, the validation rule, sorry. So the validation rule in this case, the question specifically said that we need to set the field properties so that the user can only enter text that contains an @ sign, right? So it has to have an @ sign somewhere. Okay, so now in this case, one thing we definitely know, it needs to have the @ but because the validation text says only enter a valid email address. Now you've been CAT learners for 3 years, so you know an email address has a username at a domain name, right? So therefore we have text before and after the @ and this is where the wildcard comes in. Wildcard refers to any number of letters before or after. And in this case, we needed before and after the @ sign. So automatically our like is added. That is correct. It should be like @ with anything before and after. I hope that helps, right? What else, Ms. Baker? Is there anything else that I missed? Okay, I'll do that now. Anything else in the table? Seems like that's fine.
Tanya, can I come in, Tanya?
Yes, thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. I think it's Friday afternoon.
Yes, sir.
If we're done, we can finish a little early. I just want to tell you to the learners, thank you very much for attending. We know it's a Friday afternoon and the teachers that are sacrificing their time to attend. I think it was a wonderful presentation. Tanya and I had a meeting till about 2:45, so I joined thereafter. But thank you very much, Ms. Tanya Pretorius. I think it's a well done. I think we can give her a big round of applause. We want to see the emojis now, not while she's presenting. I think she did very, very well. Thank you very much. If you've got any other questions, oh, there's a lot of hand claps there. But if you have any other questions, you can always ask your teachers. Your teachers will ask the subject advisors. And I think Ms. Kim Baker will download the videos for all these sessions. And the videos will also be given to you to watch if you need any assistance. So thank you very much, Ms. Pretorius. I think it was very, very good. I really enjoyed the session. And I'm sure the learners enjoyed the session too. So I think we can close the meeting, Tanya Pretorius, if Kim is okay with it. And thank you to you, to Kim,
Yes.
Rina, and all the others that made this possible. So Kim, if you can maybe outline what's going to happen on Monday, and then we will close the meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Kim, yes, thank you. Where can we get the videos? The videos should be shared. It would be shared with your teachers, guys, and then the teachers can share it with you guys.
Hi, Tanya. I'm busy uploading it. It just takes quite some time because it's already 2 videos of more than 2 hours. So I will share it with the facilitators, and then the facilitators has to share it with the educators. But hopefully before the end of the weekend, everyone should have it.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank-
Can we